Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Sydney. I am a certified life coach, really passionate about all things personal development, spirituality, manifestation, spiritual business, all those good things. So if those are things that you guys are also interested in, be sure to subscribe. And if you're coming back, welcome back. I recently chopped my hair off. If you could not tell, my hair is way shorter than it was. I got it done on Monday. I'm recording this on a Thursday right before this episode comes out for you all. So if you're on the podcast, you're obviously not seeing this, but you would see it on my Instagram if you are following me over there. If you're not, come and join me. But I'm really, this episode and this video just feels like a breath of fresh air because I had a really big kind of epiphany or like realization this week regarding business and regarding just the way that things have been going and the way that business is traditionally run and all these different things. And I shared briefly about this on my Instagram story the other day, and I'm going to talk more about it today, obviously. But yeah, basically up until this point, I went full-time in my business back in April of 2021 of this year. And yeah, I feel like when I shifted away from nursing full-time, I don't know if it was fear, I don't know if it was ego, I don't know if it was just because this is what I thought everybody who ran their business full-time did, but I really fell into this mode of running things logically and running things very from a place of a very like mental standpoint rather than like using my intuition and using, really tapping into the depths of like my soul for what I want to be doing with this business. So it's been a bit of a bumpy journey over the last few months. Like, I will not sugarcoat that because I think it needs to be talked about. And I think there are so many people online who make it seem like having your own business is just a walk in the park. And, while I'm very grateful and obviously there's a lot of blessings with it, it's also can be really testing. And recently for me, it's been testing my trust in myself. So without like just moving on from that, because we're going to talk, like I said, more about that in this episode. I just wanted to share a couple different things. So first of all, I sat down today to meditate before I'm recording this. I sat down this morning. It's 3:00 now in the afternoon, so it's been a few hours. But I sat and meditated and literally was just listening to meditation music and just sat and asked like my higher self or the universe, like, what message is meant to come through me today? Like, what message? I knew I was going to be filming a video. I was like, what message needs to come out today? So there are a few different talking points that I want to hit in this episode specifically. So a couple different things. We're going to talk about the importance of rest. We're going to talk about my experience of this past launch that like quote unquote failed, which again is what I talked about very briefly on my Instagram story the other day. Just like things that I've been learning. We're also going to talk about the fact that we all have our own unique inner wisdom, and our intuition is just, it's like a superpower, really. And, I think we all really just need to learn how to tap into our own intuition and tune into our own soul's guidance to create really beautiful, deep work, meaningful work in this world, rather than just doing it the way that everybody else has been doing it. Excuse me. And then lastly, again, I just want to talk about my experience, like I said, with business and how it's always come back to using my intuition first thing. So that's what we're going to talk about in this episode or on this video, depending on where you're tuning in from. But be sure you're subscribed, whether you're watching on whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast. I also have many different offerings at the moment. So I have our membership community. I have multiple courses on everything from money mindset to intuitive business, to self-love and self-care. And I also have one-on-one coaching available at the moment if you guys are interested or if you're wanting more after going through this episode. I will leave everything linked below for you for that. But without further ado, let's just get into it. So first of all, the importance of rest. I actually pulled an oracle card from my deck is not near me right now, but the Starseed Oracle deck is what I used recently. And the card that came through was Watering Your Garden, which is like all about rest and putting on the brakes, refueling, putting yourself and your health and well-being first, and remembering that there is enough time. Like, it's safe to slow down. And again, that was really the message that was wanting to come through when I was meditating on this morning, is like, I know, especially if you're in the world of online business, if you work for yourself, it can feel so incredibly, I have to keep going, I have to keep going, I have to keep going. But it's really important to discuss like how important it is to rest, and how important it is for you to fill up your own cup and for you to refuel in the way of like the self-care, but also like just in terms of what lights you up, right? So like, I don't know, for me, it's just looked like, you know, I don't have to be filling my days with all of these tasks and all of these to-dos. I really can, I don't know, like just let there be more space, more openness in my day. And I notice that when I have more space and when I have more openness in my day-to-day life, that's when the intuitive ideas will start to come in more, versus if I'm super busy. Because again, it's like you don't have the space to welcome them in. So it's kind of like the same concept as like if you're wanting to welcome in a new manifestation into your life. You know, the advice is always to like tidy up your space, clear out what's no longer serving you, clear out the junk, clear out the clutter, in order to welcome in the new. It's the same type of situation. So if you needed that message today, this is your sign that it's okay to rest. It's okay to take a break. And it's okay to say no to things, to just really prioritize your own sense of peace, right? So that's number one. Secondly, I want to talk about this experience with my quote unquote failed launch. So as you guys may or may not have seen, I actually didn't talk about it too much on the podcast or the YouTube channel. But I recently launched a group coaching program called the Dream Life Accelerator. It was really enjoyable to work on. It was beautiful, and the offer itself is beautiful. And so first of all, basically what happened was I launched a free training that went so well. Thank you to those of you guys that watched it. It's also up here on the YouTube channel. If you're interested, or if you're on the podcast, you can go over to the YouTube channel and watch the recording. It's all about taking a life audit and how to design your dream life. So I did that training. Then I launched my group coaching program, and it was like crickets. And I'm sitting here and I think, you know, normally I would have been frustrated. I would have felt like, okay, I have to figure this out. And I kind of got into my head a little bit about it. Like, okay, I worked so hard on this launch. Like, how can I make it work? Again, that wanting to push through the resistance of it. And I really had to remind myself to surrender. And, you know, the most important things that I learned through this quote unquote failed launch. Also, when I shared about this on my Instagram story the other day, I had so many of you guys reach out. So just like, thank you from the bottom of my heart for those of you guys that reached out. And for those of you guys that reached out and said like, you know, just thank you for sharing this so that you felt less alone, because maybe you've been feeling in a similar place, where you feel like you're checking all the boxes, you feel like you're doing all the things you're supposed to, and the business just isn't working out the way that you wanted it to. I think this episode is just going to give you a lot of insight, because there's just a lot of really deep wisdom coming through. So basically, again, with this quote unquote failed launch, I was sitting and just reflecting on it, you know. And again, first of all, the first feelings that came up like right away were like, you know, extend the deadline, or really like, what can I do to like keep this going, even though it felt like I was pushing a rock up a hill, like literally a boulder up a hill. Lots of resistance. It was not flowing the way that I wanted it to. And when I finally sat down and surrendered to it, the main thing that was coming through was the intuitive guidance has to come through first before we take action. And what I mean by that is, when I went into this launch, I was very much in my masculine energy of like, looking up how to properly execute a launch, looking up how to, do email sequences, how to do a webinar, how to host a group coaching program, like all these things that were very tactical, which again, it's not that it's bad, but in my experience specifically, I've learned that when I'm just kind of doing things because I think it's what I'm supposed to do, or it's what every business coach out there says, like, oh, this is the right way to do it, it takes me out of my element and it doesn't flow. And I witnessed this in my business previously when I was a Beachbody coach. Like, I didn't feel connected to it anymore, and I wasn't seeing really any financial like compensation for it or anything. And because I was just like listening to what everybody told me. So I think the most important thing that I learned through this experience with the failed launch is, and I say failed loosely because I don't believe it. Like, I think, failure is, I like to think that we fail forward, right? It's like it's shifting the mindset around that. But the main thing that came up with this was like, nobody knows what's best for you rather than you. And nobody knows really like the depth of the work that you're meant to be doing in this world other than you. And, it can be really easy to look around at what everybody else is doing and look around, for me, like looking around at other coaches and other people who have successful businesses and like kind of seeing what appears to be working really well for them and kind of like copying and pasting, at least the format, right? Obviously not the content and not what I'm teaching, but it's like I had this weird pressure on myself that I had to have everything figured out. Like, I had to figure out what I was going to do in my business over the next 12 months. And, if that works for you to plan ahead, beautiful. But for me, it's really important that I feel connected to my work, like deeply connected to what I'm doing, including this content. Like, that's why, again, it felt like such a breath of fresh air to sit down and record this today, because I don't know, I just feel like ever since I went full-time in my business back in April, it was like, I felt like I had to be this like more professional person because now I'm full-time in my business, even though what I was doing before was working so well with following my intuition. So it's like, why do we stop these things, right? And it's like that fear of success. Like, for me, I think there was a lot of feelings of, it's not safe to trust myself, or trusting myself isn't going to take me to the next level. Like, I have to follow somebody who's done this before. And I actually saw a decline in my business growth by following what everybody else said to do, right? So I think that's just important to just recognize, is like, whatever you're doing specifically with business, for me at least, is what I'm going to be speaking on. But it's very important to get to receive, we have to receive the intuitive hit, the gut feeling, the divine guidance first before we take the action. Because when we're taking action on something that's not aligned, like for me, taking action on the group coaching program that, sounded like a great idea, looked great on paper, but didn't feel really aligned with me, of course it didn't work out, right? So it's like, rather than feeling, and again, my type A kicks in, and I know this is a bit of a rambly video and episode, but I hope you're sticking with me. But again, I feel like it's like it can be really, like I said, it can be really easy to like follow what everybody else is doing because it looks like the safe option. But when we're trying to micromanage everything, like, I feel like that's when my connection to my intuition, my connection to the universe is like shut off. Like, that's literally what it's felt like over the last like 9 months. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, what's the deal? Like, I'm still doing my practice. I'm still meditating. I'm still doing yoga. Like, I'm still doing these things that I did before. But I just was very disconnected from my intuition and from my soul. And once I sat down and just surrendered and literally was like, and it almost brings me to tears talking about this. But once I sat down and meditated and really like, again, connected with my intuition, connected with divine guidance, connected with my higher self, and I asked these questions, like asking the advice that I was currently searching on Google or on YouTube or reading blog posts about or searching on Pinterest, like everything that I was searching up, I went in and asked my inner guidance, my inner knowing. And once I started channeling from there of like, this is what you're meant to do next, or these were the answers to these questions that I had been seeking. Again, it feels like a breath of fresh air. It feels supportive. It feels aligned, right? So again, I think what I've learned most, like I said, is that the idea needs to be an inspired idea, something divinely channeled for me, something that I have this feeling like I have to bring this to life because it feels so potent and it feels like I'm the one who's meant to bring this into the world right now. Not something that I'm wishy-washy on. Like, it's, and again, my type A goes into kind of freak out mode when I start to live more intuitively like this, because for me, it feels safer to have a 12-month plan for my business, or, I'm like, oh my God, well, how am I going to make money? How am I going to make, my income, hit my income goals? But the realization is, like, I've been trying to do it this structured way, or this very masculine energy, like totally neglecting the feminine, neglecting the intuitive side of it. And I haven't been seeing the growth. So like, why do we keep doing the things that aren't working? Right. So intuitive guidance first, then take the action. And, when we fill up our schedule with things that we think we're supposed to be doing, or with business, like you have a plan of all these launches that you think you're supposed to do because it feels like the safe option. Like, if it's not connected with you on a deep soul level, it's not worth your time, your energy, or your attention, because what's going to happen is you're going to be so distracted with those things that sure feel safe at the time, but there's, again, no space for the intuitive ideas to come in, which are the ones that really are the ones that you're meant to act on. So I hope that makes sense. I know, again, it's kind of rambly. It's still kind of becoming clear to myself. But this takes me into my next point is, again, we all have our own unique wisdom within. So recognizing too that what I believe and what works for me in business is not necessarily going to work for you in business, right? And vice versa. And I've seen that with my own experience of, taking courses and following somebody else's blueprint and it not working. So I think it's just remembering to, again, tap into your intuition, tap into, whatever way you feel most deeply connected with yourself. Again, for me, this is meditating, just putting on meditation music, sitting down, taking some deep breaths, bringing my gaze up to my third eye point, and connecting with my higher self, connecting with my intuition, connecting with the universe, and asking those questions. And every day I sit and I ask, like, and again, this is something that I'm getting back into because clearly I hadn't done it for 9 months, and I definitely noticed that feeling of not feeling like I'm in alignment, right? My questions are, how can I be of service today? What does my ideal soulmate client need to hear today? Or what message am I meant to share today? Which is how I got all of this out this morning. And then I always like to ask, like, what would you have me do today? And then what divine messages or guidance do you have for me today? And I'll usually pull an oracle card with this to, like, just kind of get the energy for the day. It's just a really good way, I think, to connect with the guidance, right? And to make it a normal, open communication, because then, if we're tuning into our intuition daily in our morning practice or in our evening practice or sometime throughout your day intentionally, it opens up space for the universe to communicate with you for the rest of the day, right? And that's when we're really living in flow and living in alignment. And that's exactly how I was before I left nursing full-time. Again, and then something inside of me said, it's not safe to keep following your intuition. Like, you have to follow these people who have 7-figure businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses, because they're the ones that are going to take you to the next level. But in reality, it's my intuition that's going to take me to the next level. And it's my intuition who's going to keep me in alignment. It feels so good to talk about this. So I hope that this is resonating, like I said, but tap into your intuition and let yourself create deep, beautiful, meaningful work from that place of divine guidance. And then lastly, like I said, I kind of talked about this, but my experience with business has been all over the place. But again, I think the most important thing to note here is the importance of coming back to my intuition, the importance of not looking around at what everybody else is doing and thinking that that's how I'm going to be successful, or how I'm going to make more money, or how I'm going to grow my business, or how I'm going to prove to my family that my business is doing well, or what have you, right? And really just like, there's just such safety in connecting with, again, for me specifically, I normally like, it's like my higher self or the universe or my intuition. Excuse me. But it's really connecting with that deep inner knowing, and knowing that I'm always taken care of, and I'm always safe and supported and protected and provided for. And I just think there's something so magical about really marrying, the intuitive action or the intuitive guidance and the channeled messages, and keeping that relationship with the universe and your intuition open. Because like when it comes to having a business, to starting a business, to running a business, we like in human form are only half of the equation. Like our business is its own entity, and this is the way that really just resonates most deeply with me. And I know I've talked about this in previous episodes, but really like, I don't know. It's like our businesses are their own energetic beings, and it's birthed between the universe and us. So it's our job to open up, to receive the guidance, and to take action on the guidance, and to bring it to earth form, to physical manifestation. But again, it's not burning yourself out because you haven't had the intuitive hit yet. You know what I mean? So doing things that you think are safe, or doing things that you think you're supposed to do. And if you're in a place like that right now, I really recommend that you take a rest, you take a break, and you work on that. Again, even just meditating, taking some deep breaths, putting on meditation music, and asking the questions that you've been seeking within yourself. Like, have your journal handy. I always like to keep my journal in front of me while I'm doing this, because I feel like so many beautiful things come through that I want to have it to reference back. But yeah, just see what comes up for you. So that's all I have for you. Let me know in the comments below, or if you're watching on, or if you're listening on the podcast, shoot me a DM over on Instagram. I will leave everything linked in the show notes and in the description. But let me know how this resonated for you, if this was helpful, if you have any more questions. And again, I'll leave everything below. My membership, my courses, the Spiritual CEO course that I have actually really dives deep into all of this stuff about intuitive business. So if that's something that you're looking for, that's a resource that I will provide below. And again, if you're looking for some more individualized one-on-one coaching, whether you have a business and that's something that you want to work on, and you're wanting some accountability and some support in that area, or if you don't have a business and just in life in general, you're looking for more meaning, you're looking for prioritizing your self-care, you're wanting to really manifest and build your dream life and just step into the best and highest version of you. And again, if you're wanting some coaching and some extra one-on-one accountability with that, I do have one-on-one coaching available at the moment. So I will leave all of that linked in the show notes, again, and in the description. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Also stay tuned on Instagram, because I'm going to start doing more just intuitively guided content. And I've made this promise to myself that the only content that I'm putting out there is what has been channeled through me so strongly that like it needs to be shared. So not doing things because it's safe, and obviously staying consistent, but not forcing myself to post just to post. So I hope this was helpful. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay. Bye guys. Love you so much.